how do you deal with the older, non-tech savvy demographics? This time we'll start it with Michael.
Awesome. So I believe it's a common misconception that older demographics don't use technology. In my experience, I've had 95-year-old long retired ladies who are able to use condo control. So it's not that difficult. We're not launching rockets into space. We're putting work orders in or asking questions online. So that's a common misconception. And in fact, the largest demographic of internet users, or the largest growing demographic, is that retired population who have never used computers before and are starting to use them now. So don't let that scare you. But there are some things you need to remember in terms of who are digital natives. The digital native grew up with computers. Using condo control is the easiest thing in the world for them, right? They just kind of get it. For older demographics, they haven't seen condo control. They haven't seen similar programs. So what I recommend is a very calm and practice patient approach. And a good way of doing this is just bring the owners into a big room and grab a projector or grab a large monitor and literally walk them through it. Walk through the entire life cycle. Here's where you log in. You put your user and you put your password. Make sure you write those down. And then you take them into the front page and you say, if you want to access some documents, here's the library, right? And you walk them through, and you're doing, let's call this an internal training session for your owners to show them how to use it, and make it acceptable to come to these multiple times and say, hey, we're going to cover some of the same material again in a week. If you want to see it again, come on down, and you can bring donuts, you can have some coffee, and you actually have owners who they may have been afraid of using this before, but when you make it okay to ask questions, when you make it okay to not understand it right away, when you make it a fun experience, they will come and they will actually start using it.
Perfect.
So Michael, in a way, stole a lot of my thunder because he described exactly what we did. Again, multiple seminars. Pre-COVID, it was live and in person, which was much easier to do. We have a large function room that has a smart TV display that we could stream to and walk them through and show them how to do it. I'd also agree with the point that it's not necessarily the age about the demographic. It's I would argue with microcosm of general society, there's the technophobes, the technologists, and everyone else in between. And you just work with it. In our case, again, most of our management, other than 3 core full-time employees, is done by the owners and the board. And we have what we call a technology committee, which is a group of about 10 to a dozen of us who have technology backgrounds or are comfortable with technology. And we've publicized that the committee exists, and people know if you have a problem that you can't figure out and you need to call someone, you look up who's on there, and your buddy Joe, who's on the technology committee, hey Joe, can you come here and help me with this? And the other thing that I found that has, over the years, even when I was still working, that helps a lot is to convince people it's software, you can't break it. Now, we all know that's not quite true, but for the most part, what I find is people, they're afraid to hit that button or afraid to explore because they're afraid they're going to break something. And you need to break through that phobia and no, try the library, because most of our owners anyway, I'm sure with most implementations, are read-only setup, so they can't mess things up. Encourage them to experiment.